Hello, everyone. So we are live again here on YouTube. Alexandra and I. Hello, Alexandra.
Hi Richard, how are you doing?
Thanks. And yeah, we are going to talk a little bit about the introduction, how Sweet Krishna evolved and how it developed over time. So maybe you can say a little bit about this, Alexandra. This would be great.
Yeah, I will. Yes, so tonight, if you haven't heard the song, it'll be the first time it's been streamed online as a video on here on this channel, YouTube, just so you know why we come together. And we always want to take a moment to see the process and shed light on the process of how we develop these songs, what they mean for ourselves, and maybe to also engage in a more public view on how you see it. So there's always room for you to join this conversation and ask questions or make remarks below, and we will answer them, just to set it up front. Sweet Krishna. So how did this happen? It's the weirdest way songs come into your life, I have to say that. So the story goes, it's a true story. So I live in a mezzanine flat and we have a garden downstairs, and we also have two dogs in my family. And one is an older dog and one is a younger dog. And the younger one was out in the garden playing and chasing and sniffing. And the older dog stood by the window, completely perplexed what's going on outside. He didn't understand why the one dog, why his friend dog was downstairs and he was upstairs. He kept looking and looking. And in the sweetest notion ever, this tune came to me where I kind of started singing to the older dog, who was, of course, allowed to go downstairs, not to get that wrong. And I was singing to him in German. And I was singing something along the lines, "Who is out there? Bernardo? Bernardo, who is out there? Oh, that's Dora, and she's chasing around and she's running around, and she can be a free spirit, and you're up here. But why don't you join her in the garden, Bernardo?" So that would be roughly a translation of the little song. And what happened, this song really took hold of me, I have to say. It kept coming back and back and back. And I sang it like for 5 minutes straight. And so that my daughter came into the room and said, like, "What's going on here?" You could see she kind of could feel the spirit. And then, well, anyways, we made a bit of fun, and that was the end of that. And as we were talking about what kind of songs we want to publish next, Richard and I said, I have this tune, but it's a kind of a silly tune from almost like a children's song. And he was saying, "Well, why don't you sing it to me?"
Yeah.
Do you remember that, Richard?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, but I feel a little bit silly because I want to do mantras. It was a little bit in that sense. What is mantra music and what is music and what is not music? It didn't dawn on me that you can, that tunes are there to be sung, and it doesn't matter how they come to you. And in this long swept story that you're listening to, what really happened is that Richard kind of took his time actually to sit with me and say, like, what does that mean when you sing that to the dog? What's really happening out there? And to me, um, where it kind of belonged to was that longing and calling for the sweetness in life, that freedom and the self-expression in life, and which we could witness in the small dog. And it was almost like not only Bernardo was calling her, like was witnessing that, but me too, and noticing I want to have that in my life. And then that's how I kind of got into the whole Krishna theme, because Krishna, to me personally, is all about the beauty and the self-expression and being who you are in this life. That's one of his personas he is portrayed in, as far as I understand it. And I always think of how cheeky he was when he kind of took the milk from the milkmaids. He would always kind of say, like, "But the milk is so sweet. Just why can't I have it? And that exactly is the expression of the song I was singing to my dog at the time.
Yeah, and we also want to talk a little bit about the origin of the songs or how they develop, because everything comes out of life. So chanting and music is not different than your life. Yeah. And it chanting in general makes you remember the divine if this is your path or the path you're on. So yeah, these songs just help us to remember a deeper place inside of ourselves. And sometimes we have to remember to have more fun.
Yeah,
These
exactly.
days, what's going on in the world, yeah, then I think it's very important to have some fun,
Yeah.
deep joy. Yeah, I
Mm.
would call it.
Exactly. And sometimes in the remembering is also the acknowledgement. That's why I found the word so powerful that we used Om Shri Krishna Sharanam. We're singing in the first part of the song. And it's I surrender to you, or Lord Krishna. That's what it means. And the surrendering is often so misunderstood. I mean, from an evolutionary perspective, like we've been always fighting to become more free and self-explorative and self-dependent, looking from all the systems that we lived in together. And so surrender sometimes seems to mean to people, and in the first place, that it means like we are powerless. But surrender could also mean that we allow something to come into our lives. So that energy of the Lord Krishna, as he is the flute player, the coward, and not the coward like as in the German language is probably just giving it not properly away, but the cow, herd. So that he was, and the little boy that liked to play. That is all in that surrendering. All that means like, please let that all kind of come through me. Mm.
Yeah, and that just also, since we want to interact a little bit more with our listeners and viewers, I'm gonna say hi, Oli here. Hello, thanks for your hand comment. And yeah, we will be a little bit longer live today. That's at least the intention right now. And maybe some of you want to come on the chat and yeah, talk a little bit with us. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hello,
And
also
mm,
from my side. Yeah. So what does Krishna mean to you, Richard?
to me, I think the energy of Krishna means innocence to me, joyful, playful innocence. So that you basically look at things and the world with childlike eyes,
Mm,
without the judgments, without every preconception you have about the world and other people. But it's just a joyful exploring of being, yeah? And maybe it's also a joyful exploring or exploration of being human. You can also go in this direction and see what do we really know about humanness?
mm,
Yeah,
mm,
maybe from the point of view of an innocent child exploring.
mm. That reminds me in how we learn as adults to stick to a path, and we have to carve it out, and we have to do a lot of things to make our stance and our living in this life and in this world. That is true. And I had this conversation with someone about how we can end up in really feeling we just need to be that one thing in our self-expression, and what can happen if you're not a person that is to be if you're more a person of what they call a jack of all trades, like if you're interested in many things in life, it starts to become the jack of all trades. He's not a master, or she's not a master of this. And if we want to become masters, we need to be really solidly engaged with one thing, which is true on one side. And on the other hand side, we are in that engagement of and in the pursuit of becoming the master of something, we can often lose that childlike innocence, where we kind of say, like, why don't we play it that way, instead of feeling like I need to play it the old-fashioned way. That's also what's coming to me as the humanness, where we kind of get really serious about how we think we need to live.
Yeah, and the same thing can happen on the spiritual path, that you think, you have to be very serious. And I have to say, I was that way too for a while. And sometimes it's also needed. It's the question is, where are you at in your own path? And maybe you can find honesty in where you're really at. Because if you're just in this serious mode and you, in this point of your life, cannot get out of it, walk it until the end, until you have to let go or this surrender happens. It's more or less surrender happens than I surrender, yeah.
Mm.
And
Mm.
when this surrender happens, the new openness unfolds. Because the question is always, where are you running to?
Yeah.
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 And also one topic we discussed a little bit before that we want to talk about this today is spirituality in day-to-day life.
Yes.
How to live it. Why is it even important in this day and age? I
Mm.
think that's an important question.
Yeah.
Why is it
Why
important
do
to
you
live
think
it?
is that important? What do you think is happening?
To me personally, I see it like this, that I often say this to people, that money became the new religion. Yeah. And instead of realizing and connecting to the divine, people think that money will solve everything, all their problems, which is in fact not true. Yeah. And of course, for a while, it's also a part of the journey that until you realize that it's an important part of your life, but the source of all of this, so the source of, yeah, you can say it's your true essence, and also money is the divine. But of course, this takes the realization that you get to the point where you really not only from a mind level think that, but you experience that. So I think that people who only have material things, and I'm just saying here only material things, yeah, they might be rich on a money level, but they are poor on another level, because what fills you up, like on your, in the deepest layer of your being, is the connection. If you have a, for example, great guru, let's say if you can connect with Nim Karoli Baba or with Ama, this brings so much more fulfillment than just material things. You need both. You need material things and spiritual things, but in the end, this is the same thing. If you can see the essence and realize what's behind all this creation here.
Yeah. Is spirituality needed? That was the original question we started out with, and then I got hooked on what you said about money. So
We can go into both questions, because is spirituality needed for a fulfilled life, like a whole life? In my opinion, it's very much needed.
that would be like if you would talk to an atheist right now, which you are
Mm.
not because I'm here. um, that person would say, like, why should I believe you? That is important because, nobody knows whether we're going to return in this life, or nobody knows whether we're going to pay for what we're doing or not. So this could all be coincidence that things happen into your life. Why in your life, not into your life, but in your life.
Yeah, and I think it's important. You cannot convince anybody. You should not convince anyone. For me personally, it's like if you taste the sweet nectar, I really call it like this, the nectar of the divine, there is not a question. You know, for me, there's nothing to ask anymore. It's this experience, yeah. And
The
yeah,
experience blows you completely out of the water. And so I think what you're offering here in this question and answer that you're giving at this point in time, is that the pursuit of spirituality just as a chore cannot be the reason why you do spiritual. Well, it can be the reason, but the pursuit of spirituality without knowing what you're looking for or want from it, is probably not the easiest way to kick off. But a lot of people find their way into spirituality from what I've witnessed, or they find their way into looking at their life a little bit deeper, noticing that they're not, alone in what happens to them. Then they kind of seek something bigger, and that bigger often turns out to what we call these days spirituality.
yeah, you could call it like this, or they are just, there's some impulse inside of them that makes them question if there is something deeper.
Of course. Yeah.
Because how else would you start? You start because there's a thought that you believed enough to pursue the journey. Otherwise, you would not start with, I don't know, yoga or other things. And of course, I think it's also a part of your life's journey how deep this goes, or maybe how deep you want to look into these things, because you can stay on the surface or you can go very deep with it. So I see it like that. You can only decide this individually, what is right for you, how deep you want to look into this topic. And since this channel is also called Lucky Mantra Music, so of course it has to do with spirituality and mantras. And it's also called lucky because, yeah, it brings you luck in your life. It brings you joy, it brings you luck. And maybe you can, for a while, get out of the me, myself, and I bubble when you're chanting. So you forget that your whole life is just about you all the time. And this is very freeing.
Yeah, and a lot of people enjoy singing, so it's an easy connection. Some people don't like singing, but they like listening to music. So same here, I think. If you don't find the courage to sing along, it can always help you to listen to something that came with this specification of that there's something bigger out there than just our humanness, so to speak. And yeah, even if you listen to classics, to some classical music, you can feel the notion of what went through these composers, and that it wasn't. I think I heard or an interview lately where somebody said it's impossible to compose what they have composed. Like the if we talk about classical music, and Beethoven and whoever you wanna throw in the basket that is out there and famous and still very much alive in the ears of people. Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes for me it's like this beauty, this immense beauty in music, this points me to the divine. It's
Mm,
unbelievable what this beauty. And sometimes in Vienna I go to the, what is it called? Um, Museums, yeah, to the museums. And there's all this Picasso and Klimt and Schiele and this amazing beauty. I mean, we can always discuss taste in art. Okay, one somebody likes it, somebody doesn't like it. But for me, this immense beauty of art and the creation of a human, or that happens through a human, I think it's the same in like paintings or in music because it comes through you. It's not from you. That's
mm,
I think also Einstein even said the idea comes to you. It's not from you. Yeah,
mm,
something like this.
mm.
So
And yet there is so many people that feel that they are not spiritual, but they adore art. How do you bring these things together, like spirituality in day-to-day life? You know, like people look at a beautiful painting or they go to famous art exhibitions of long-standing artists, like you named them, and still they wouldn't say they call themselves spiritual, I think.
sure, you don't have to be spiritual to enjoy art because it's just beautiful.
Mm, mm,
The question is, can you see the painter, the real painter behind the painting? Can you see the real composer behind the music? This is the question.
mm,
Or are you open to see it?
mm,
So for me, it's not everybody will be drawn to spirituality because it also depends on where you are on your path. Maybe it's not your lifetime for spirituality. Maybe it's your lifetime for, I don't know, scuba diving. Yeah. Or I don't know what. And
mm.
that's your focus. Mm.
Yeah. I remember this conversation when we, like, because the question is to me a yes or a no question when you say, like, is spirituality needed in day-to-day life, And then my clean-cut mind wants to have the specifics, yes or no. And now we don't get the specifics in this conversation. And um, it kind of leaves me always puzzled because there's room for everything and still there's a call for a need in the question itself. Yeah.
Sometimes the question is also arising because a person is suffering
Mm,
and they cannot really find any meaning and any purpose in their suffering. But suddenly they open up to a new dimension of a solution. Yeah.
mm,
It's not always like that, that people have to suffer to turn towards the divine, but it's quite often. For example, the people I work with, most of them suffered immensely before they decided, if you can call it like this, to deeper look at their situation and connect with the divine on one level.
mm.
So suffering is a connector, and also it reminds you of that there is more than you can control in your life.
Yeah. It becomes the story around it. That's what it reminds me of. The story we build around the suffering. Why am I suffering? Why is this happening to me? That creates the disconnection from a phenomena that's there in the entire world. A lot of people suffer from certain things and feel the loss of something, feel the loss of their health, the loss of finances, the loss of their comfort, or whatever it is, like, um, and then when the mind, like when you work your way deeper into the suffering instead of working yourself through the suffering, then it's where we are kind of getting stuck, I think. Like I mean, I'm not excluding myself. We all probably know that thing when something hurts and you think it'll hurt forever, like I banged my knee and it hurts so much it will never stop hurting kind of scenario, that thing, that we forget, as you said earlier, through the I me mind direction, that there is movement in life and there's always something else coming and going, which kind of leads us step by step deeper into where we need to be in our lives.
Yeah, and if you say things are coming and going, yeah, definitely. But the divine is not coming or going anywhere. It's always there. And this is basically amazing if you can get a feeling that the divine is always there. It doesn't matter how you feel, but the divine is always there. Maybe one time you remember, another time you don't remember. But
Mm,
if you remember, then you can connect with it. And
mm,
this helps you to also get through very difficult situations. That's the thread that pulls you through, basically.
mm.
And of course, there's also one thing: is there a longing to know the divine?
Yeah,
So I see it like that. Is there a longing to know yourself truly? Not who you believe you are, not who you think you are, but who are you? I think that's from an Advaita statement. Who are you in deep sleep? When there's no I, me, and mine, who are you then? And also on this path of chanting, for example, there's so much love that can come through, and this whole love can fill you up, and it can fill you up like it's a never-ending source of love, and it's not this interhuman conditioned love. It's the love that's always there, 24/7, every single day, a year. And if you find this and can connect to this, then you might love chanting because it gets you there and it brings you this joy that's beyond material stuff.
yeah. It's funny how you said that, because I was looking for something that dawned on me today, just earlier, and I was like, what was that thought? That was somehow profound, and there you are mentioning it. Like it was, that I had noticed of late that, this is really almost like my cure, my pill, for headaches and heartaches and and all the aches that, you can imagine, the ones that kind of come as a physical pain, or the ones that come as a mental pain. When I start singing, it is almost like a deeper release to me at this point. I don't know why. I found it really interesting that singing comes and goes in my life. Richard, it feels like singing has come and gone so many times in my life, and it kind of found its way back in a form that I didn't really realize would be so helpful. Is it, because my question, probably in a long-winded way without you maybe knowing the answer, but it feels like I didn't do the right singing. But is there a right singing? Singing is so enjoyable. I always enjoyed singing along to pop songs or songs that expressed my emotions, and I enjoyed the choir. Then I enjoyed classical singing, and I don't know. What do you think? Why is that? Why do these things come and go?
I think it's also depending on which phase of your life are you at. There, things are always coming at the right time. Maybe not at the right time you believe to be right, but um, yeah, there's this saying: if you argue with reality, you just lose every single time. Um, yeah, things come when they come. And if you also open up to the presence and to the presence, so with a C and a TS, then it's a much more enjoyable and full ride. I mean, with full, it has much more fullness to it. It's not just one dimensional. And I think the intention behind the singing makes a whole lot of a difference, because what are you doing basically if you're chanting? You're invoking a certain energy that you're singing to. So you're bringing in, for example, Krishna energy or Christ consciousness or Shiva energy, Shakti energy. Yeah.
Mm,
Um, you're basically begging the deity, let's call it like this, yeah, because I
mm.
think we're all beggars in front of the divine, begging to come to us and fill us up with their presence. Because, yeah, we can feel the divine as humans. It's amazing that we can, but basically, what we are searching is already in us, but we have to dig deep enough to release all the crap that's around it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's not a one uncovery thing, like you might have kind of touched or tasted the nectar, and then the monkey mind kind of makes a real hoo-ha, and you forget about it, and kind of go back into old patterns. That's what I was thinking earlier, when you said, like, and that is like the love is like sweet nectar. And I thought, like, how do you know that? And I thought, like, of course I know it. I've tasted it many times, but maybe not long enough, and maybe I shouldn't be tasting it all the time, not to get lost in the whole kind of, yeah, I can stay here forever and forever. Then that's coming back to me, really, to that initial question that we asked: what is spirituality in this day-to-day life? And to me, it's like, where do we need it? And it feels to me like we're all on escape routes in some ways. Some people like to escape through entertainment, and forgetting and chatting and making their lives really busy, and some of us trying to stay too much in this spirituality echo bubble, where everything is just beautiful, and everything should feel like I'm really connected. But I think how we need spirituality these days in this world is in a way that we become more compassionate, really, about who we are and where we come from, so to speak. In a sense, I'm talking about humbleness and compassion in that fashion. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also like this. It's not ideal for everyone to sit in a cave and meditate. For some, it can be their path, but we also need people who are in this world, like in the Western world, and do something, remind people that there is a divine presence, and remind people that there are people suffering, and maybe there's something you can do about it. And this can also be your path to learn to love more, to serve more. Yeah, and remember the divine, as Nim Crowley Baba said.
Mm,
But yeah, this sounds very easy, but it's not easy practically.
mm.
It needs a lot from us, because it's not like, okay, you have your spiritual life, and then you have your material life, and then you have your, I don't know, wife life and your
Husband life.
something like this. It's not like that, but you cannot divide it. You are always basically connected with the divine if you remember. It doesn't matter what you're doing, basically, you can remember. But your job is to remember.
I found it interesting. We had this subject between you and me earlier as we had a work call earlier, and then this sort of like pointing with a finger to somebody else, and when you started about my wife, it kind of brought back the whole thing where people said, oh yeah, this is my house, my wife, my horses, my swimming pool, my Porsche or whatever. And the way it's been portrayed is always in this kind of undignified kind of way, like these people who kind of play on their whatever they hold in the material world. They don't know about spiritual life. And lately I found like there must be a lot of hurt in people who talk like that about people like that. You don't know anything about a person that the mate means in their lives, and how they kind of came to make all that, and why they have been doing it. Of course, I'm not saying everybody is beautiful that has a lot of money, or everybody has a spiritual path that has a lot of money, but I feel like the jealousy factor in some of the things, how we talk about people and how we connect and disconnect from what is actually a longing in ourselves, is pretty big these days.
I mean, if you look at it from a broader picture, it's also like this. If you have wishes, yeah, this is also sometimes this comes up with talking with people. For me personally, I would not recommend if something haunts you, yeah, a wish for a long time.
Mm.
Let's say it like this: you want a super cool e-bike, and this follows you over years and years and years.
Mm.
Sometimes it's better to just get this freaking e-bike, yeah, um, live it, yeah, also live it out as your karma or whatever, yeah,
Mm.
because you can also see a wish as karma on one level.
Mm.
If it's a deep wish, this is also sometimes why like avatars or really awake beings, they, for example, eat something that they take away the karma of a person before they die, because otherwise they would have to come back. Um, so if it's something that haunts you for a long time, deeply look into this, and maybe it's also better that you get it than just to avoid it and say no, 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 this is not important, yeah,
Mm. Mm.
because this is not coming from being honest with yourself. This is more coming from that's not the spiritual thing to do. I mean, there's so many concepts about spirituality in general. That's just amazing. But these concepts are not better concepts than any other concepts. They're still concepts. And in the end, you have to let go of all of them and see what life presents to you, yeah, and what arises in every moment.
It's also a pretty open concept, and it leaves a lot of room for am I spiritual or not spiritual, because I don't live by concepts. So I have
That's
to play the devil's advocate here. Yeah.
that's very interesting. As long as you think you're a spiritual person, what does this mean? You just build an identity around it. Otherwise, why would this question even come up? Who needs to be spiritual?
Mm. Mm.
It's like the are you a good person? Are you a bad person? Are you a whatever it is? We need way less identities than we think we need.
Mm. There's been pretty good books out there. Not that we're going to make advertising for books here, but there's a lot of good books and novels out there around that kind of identity, how we get lost in that. And just as a recommendation, if you feel like you got stuck in some of the thoughts of who you have to be, Kali is a very good assistance as a goddess. We also have a song on And Kali, the goddess, Kali Ma, goddess of the night. If you browse through our channel, you will see it. And Kali really helps you to get rid of these parts of you that feel like you warn them for too long, and they kind of stop you from progressing instead of, they stop you from progressing, and that you don't get sucked into old kind of schemes of who you are in narration. That's what I wanted to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, then let's see. I just take a look on our live chat here.
Anybody here? Anybody got questions? That's what Richard is referring to. No.
Okay. Yeah.
Hello, everybody who is joining over the last while. We are talking about our next song because Sweet Krishna is releasing tonight, and we're using this opportunity to connect with you and hear and listen, like hear your questions and comments. And because we wanted to be here for a longer time, we dove into the topic of spirituality. Why do we need it these days more than ever? What does singing do? That's what we covered so far. In case you have any questions, let us know.
Yeah. And to maybe come back to this, is spirituality needed nowadays? It's maybe the question is spirituality needed nowadays for you? Do you need it in your life? And maybe something pulls you there. And yeah, it could also be that the chanting and the songs and the mantras that we recorded, maybe they help you a little bit. So also, if you like, give us feedback on that. And if nobody is coming on for questions, then I think it's a good time to say goodbye to you all. And yeah, we
Yeah.
will
And
definitely go live next time.
we have
Mhm.
one more song from our new EP that we're going to publish. And yeah, we want to be here with you celebrating that, and yeah, and see what you mean. And maybe it interests you how we got to create these songs. What was the background stories about it? That's why we're here in the first place. So thanks for being here. Enjoy the new video. You can bring a thumb up, or you can send us a little heart as a message if you liked it. And we would very much love to hear from you. Thanks.
Take care, guys. All the best. Bye bye.
Bye for now. Have a beautiful weekend.